Hello, I'm Sean Dolter, Director of Standards and Policy at FSC Canada, and I am back to bring you the fourth video in our Landscape Learning video series. The goal of this series is to share important information about large landscapes, which are the key area of focus for our upcoming National Forest Stewardship Standard revision process. This video will explore the normative process. The normative process is an approach FSC uses to develop and refine indicators or requirements forest managers have to meet to be FSC certified. In 2014, FSC members communicated to FSC International that intact forest landscapes are of ecological and cultural significance and should be assigned greater protection through FSC certification. In 2016, prescriptive standards were put in place to protect IFLs until final decisions could be made. Since then, FSC Canada has made progressive strides to understand how intact forest landscape requirements impact Canadian certificate holders, whose tenures include large intact landscapes. IFLs in Canada are distinct from IFLs in other parts of the world because of the unique ecology of the boreal landscape. Large landscapes across Canada are also diverse and impact communities and our certificate holders in unique ways. To create indicators in our standard relevant to the Canadian context, we have gathered information such as stakeholder feedback, experience, and extensive research. Through dedicated working groups, consultants, and experts, we have developed draft requirements for managing IFLs that have undergone public consultation and an extensive impact assessment, which can be viewed online through the link to this video's description. These requirements will also be tested through pilots to validate our approach. Further, FSC Canada Standard Development Group, our SDG, is reviewing and making necessary changes to these requirements, simulating different scenarios where these indicators might play out. We aim to reflect the diversity of ecosystems, values, functions, stakeholders, and management goals, while respecting Indigenous values, and those represented by economic, social, and environmental FSC chambers. We want to avoid additional barriers to certification while upholding the integrity of the standard. One significant challenge is integrating Indigenous cultural landscapes, or ICLs, which present a different conceptual model than IFLs. This concept was developed in consultation with Indigenous peoples because the prescriptive approach based on Western science is often inconsistent with the boundaries of Indigenous rights. This can create discomfort as IFLs may be seen as a form of colonization, imposing boundaries and limitations on Indigenous lands. Our approach must embrace the right of Indigenous peoples' self-determination. There's a lot of potential for including ICLs in the standard. Principle 3 and FPIC, free, prior, and informed consent, are strong aspects of our standard, making it one of the most globally respected in protecting Indigenous rights. We plan to use the existing framework, particularly Principle 9 on high conservation values, HCVs, to enhance our approach to large landscapes. This involves adding a higher level of responsibility and engagement for Indigenous peoples. But the work doesn't end with pilots. The international community will examine the efforts of the 5 countries involved. Draft indicators from each pilot site will then be submitted to FSC International. And by November 2026, FSC International will release the revised International Generic Indicators as part of the policy revision process. Stay tuned for the next video in our Large Landscape Learning Series, where FSC Canada's Manager of Ecosystem Services, Amy Willocks, will discuss how IFLs can add value to the landscape for landowners and tenure holders. Thank you.